Hey everybody, welcome to our next session of Higher Ed Socials training webinars. We'll give everybody a few minutes to go ahead and come on in. Let everybody come on in. Welcome everybody. Looks like we've got a lot of people filing in here. Let us know in the chat where you're from, what university. Come in and introduce yourself. Welcome Rachel, welcome Andrew, Angela. Hey Bill, come on in you guys. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Looks like everybody is coming in here. Hey, Creighton. Awesome. Yeah, come on in, say hi. Let us know where you're from. This is going to be a really great session today. I am super excited for this one. We have Rachel is going to lend us her expertise on building a cohesive university Twitter strategy, which has been a super hot topic recently. How do we condense the number of social media accounts that our universities have? How do we use them more strategically? What does that look like? How do you cross-pollinate with these different offices? How do you work with different functional areas? And so this is super exciting for us today. And I'm really, really excited to hear what Rachel is going to tell us. Hey, Erin from Iowa State. Awesome. Cindy from St. Xavier's. Okay, awesome. Kansas State. Hey, Michelle. Awesome. Georgetown University. Okay, so great cross section. Okay, left side of the United States, right side. Harvard. Hey, Kim. Hey, Jamila at Old Dominion. Welcome, welcome. Nayada from Spelman. Oh my gosh, we have such a great group here today, you guys. It's going to be amazing. I'm so glad you guys can join us on your Friday. I don't know about you guys, but it's our last day of add and drop here at the University of South Florida. So it is a crazy bananas day for us for sure. Florida Poly. Hey guys, down from Florida. Okay, awesome. This is great. A lot of fantastic people joining us today. So again, my name is Cassandra Serino. You might know me from the Higher Ed Social Facebook community. I am the admin for that. And this is a webinar in our training series that we put on typically a couple a month on topics that are requested by you guys and things that you want to learn about. And we find experts and we rope them into coming and telling us all of their secrets. So I am really excited for you guys to meet Rachel today. And I'm going to have her introduce herself and tell you a little bit about her background. And then we're going to jump into the presentation. If you have to leave and run off to another meeting, we should be ending right at 2. But just in case, this is going to be a recorded session. So you'll get a replay afterwards in case you aren't able to sit through it. Or if you have people in your office who maybe weren't able to make this time frame, we will make sure that they get a recording as well. Fantastic. Awesome. So Rachel, can you tell us a little bit about your background, where you're from and your university and kind of how this project came about?
Yeah, so thank you so much, Cassandra, for letting me do this. I am so excited. And this presentation will cover a lot of ground. So I just want to say right now that I will not get to talk in full about everything that I'm going to bring up. So I'm going to add my contact throughout the presentation in the chat later for you guys to follow and connect with me so we can chat about any of the things. But I'm the social media coordinator at the University of Wisconsin Stout, and I'm part of the UW system, one of the 13 public universities in Wisconsin, Madison, the Badgers being probably the most popular and well-known. Fun fact, Stout is actually the only UW school, including the 2 years, that's not named after the town or city that the school is in. So we're named after James Huff Stout. He was in the logging industry in the early 1900s, and he started, I believe it was the Stout Manual Training School back in the day. So anyway, that's something that a lot of people give us crap for pretty often because they're like, oh, Stout, Wisconsin, but that place doesn't exist. I don't think so, at least not here. But we're located in Menominee, Wisconsin, just about 70 miles east of the Twin Cities and Minneapolis. So anyway, today, before I start the presentation, I'll just say that this is going to be covering some, not just strategy topics, it's going to be covering what it was like for me to merge into a different department, for communications and a marketing department to merge. And if anyone's gone through that, you know that it's a little, there's drama and there's politics. And for me as a young professional, I didn't have a whole lot of voice in my job before. So it goes through that. It goes through merging 2 Twitter accounts and then into what I developed last year, which was a platform strategy template. And so just because Twitter is the hardest platform for me to manage and wrap my head around, I don't know if that's a common thing. Let me know in the chat, I suppose, if Twitter's hard for you. That's the one I started with, and the one I thought the most about, and the one I'm editing all the time. So I do have some handouts that I'll link in the end. So feel free to use those as you please, especially the template that I'll be referencing. So let me quick set up the presentation. I was testing this earlier, and I'm apparently like PowerPoint, I just don't have good luck with PowerPoint, I suppose.
I totally understand you on that. It's super funny you were talking about Stout. We're the University of South Florida, and we're in Tampa, which is decidedly not any part of South Florida. Ooh. So I totally understand how that works.
So
this looks fantastic.
So I know there might be lines around it. This is the only way I could figure out how to make this work to be able to see my notes. Like I said, PowerPoint is not my strong suit apparently. So anyway, thank you all so much for coming. I hope you guys get something helpful out of this. So I was going to ask Cassandra, are there captions available on here?
I do not think so. I think it will caption at the end for the recording, but I do not believe captions are embedded. That is a flaw in the system, but I will let the devs know at Demio.
Okay, perfect. All right, so I'm actually going to hide myself because that will just distract me to see myself talking. So I just wanted to make sure that captions would be available at some point, but I will be providing that PowerPoint in PDF form at the end, also with, like I said, the template and some other goodies. So a little bit more to introduce myself. I am from Minneapolis, Minnesota. I don't know if anyone here is from the Midwest. Shout out. I'm also a fan of the Vikings. I didn't write that on here because, you know, that's a sensitive topic right now. But I live in Menominee, Wisconsin, which is where UW Stout is. I love dogs. You might have seen this earlier on accident, but this is my dad's dog, and he is adorable. And his name is Otis. He's almost 4 years old, and I pretend that he's my own. I'm currently listening to the Lord of the Rings audiobooks. One of my 2021 goals is to read 6 books, so that's averaging like 2 a month. I have a lot of things that I do outside of work that could potentially take up time, so I don't know if for any of you if that's a lot or like a little, but if anyone wants to talk Lord of the Rings, let's do it. My current favorite show is Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I hope that I have some Nine-Nine fans in the room today, because a lot of gifts in my presentation will involve Brooklyn Nine-Nine. So I actually graduated from UW Stout in 2016 with a BA in Professional Communication and Emerging Media. And I know that's a really long major name, but it kind of gets across exactly what it is. And also there's my Twitter handle if you guys want to follow me. I'll have that at the end as well too. So that's a little bit about me. I want to first give an agenda of the things that we'll be talking about today. So like I said, there's not a whole, the name of this presentation is how to build a cohesive university strategy for Twitter. However, this presentation is not entirely cohesive on its own. It does start with a little bit of my story and where I came from in my position. And then it talks about the merge of departments. and then the other merge of the Twitter accounts. And then I get into the strategy at the end. So that's where we're starting today. So I want to start in 2017. That's when I took my position in university communications at UW-Stout, a mid-sized public university, also my alma mater. My predecessor didn't have any strategy or framework for me to work from. I was only a year out of college, and then I came to the sudden realization that I was now in charge of a multi-million-dollar institution's social media accounts. This is how I felt. I was that person that many higher ed folk talk about, where they say that an intern or a fresh college graduate should not be replaced, should not be put in the position that I was put in, but I was. And honestly, my department didn't know any better. But I needed a job. I had no idea how hard this job was going to be, but I didn't know what I didn't know, and neither did my department. I maintained the status quo, tried to go above and beyond when I could, because I thought this job was going to explain itself. But guess what? It did not. I did make a lot of improvements, mostly on the front end. Content quality and engagement increased, but I didn't have a foundation. It was exhausting and it wasn't sustainable. Many of you might relate to this, but I was creating content paycheck to paycheck. I didn't have time. I was just rushing and rushing. I had no foundation to tell me and show me how I should be working. I knew there had to be more than how things have always been. Like I said, I was a team of one. I was given pretty much full reign on how our social was managed. And my department was mostly previous news writers who are excellent at writing, and especially at writing news content, and they definitely know the news world. But needless to say, I didn't have many local people to turn to for help. So it was my mission to do lots of learning. I asked to go to conferences, which they let me and paid for. I'm so thankful for that. And it was actually those that helped me, that the people at those conferences introduced me to people in the higher ed social community. I actually got started on the HESM Slack channel, and then I found out about the Facebook group this past August at the EDU Web conference, which I'm so thankful for. I studied other universities' social media guidelines. I wrote down my ideas, no matter if they were feasible or not. I tried to dream big, even though I knew it wasn't possible for me at the time. Everyone can relate to me, I think, in some way on this, but when people would ask me to post something that I knew was wrong for the platform, or had bad visuals, like a flyer or a really small image that was pixely or something, or other reasons, that we're all familiar with, I didn't have any support to back up my claim that it shouldn't be posted. Many times I had to post what I knew would get low views and engagement, just for the sake of posting it, and it made me feel terrible, and I know that you guys can relate to that. I did end up challenging my supervisor quite a few times on different things, but I usually wouldn't win. Most of the time it was just because I wanted to stray from how things had always been. I did end up doing some, really helpful things in my position. I made a lot of good steps. I created helpful resources. I improved our social reputation. I built an internal website for our campus with best practices, resources, guides, and more. People needed help on our campus, and I was the person to help them. But what happens? What do you do when you as the helper, part of my position is to be the social media consultant for campus. What happens when you need help? What happens when you need a consultant? And you don't have a lot of money to go to courses or whatever, going to conferences is great, but it's not the same. I still didn't really know what strategy was. Even a year ago, I think I would have had a hard time articulating it. I think I understood the concept, but I had no idea how to practically make it happen. But as I read and listen to those who are leading the way and have more experience than me, it's opening my eyes to the incredible possibilities of what social strategy and structure can do for me, my office, and my university, and most importantly, my audience. And so that's where this all starts. I might have done this in the wrong order. Like I want to give a disclaimer that usually from what I've seen or just kind of understood, that people will create the larger overarching social media strategy and then platform strategies will trickle out of that. But I kind of did it the opposite way. But one of my SMART goals this year is to create an outline and a percentage of content for that overarching one. So it's happening, but disclaimer, this is all still very new to me and I'm still learning. And that's why I wanted to do this, because even though it makes me nervous, because I definitely have expertise. People would say that I do, but I think all of us know the feeling of, what's the word? Just feeling like you don't know what you actually do know. And I just wanted to make sure and encourage all of you that you can be confident in your expertise because you do know. Oh, imposter syndrome. There we go. I know that all of us in our field feel that once in a while. So anyway, yes, I'm so glad that people can relate to that. So I want to say that also I'm constantly changing the strategy, and that's okay. And it'll also look different for me than it will for you, but I hope that you guys get something out of it, even though it might look different. So my journey in developing the official strategies for our platforms and our overarching social media strategy starts with the merge. I want to give a poll really quick. Yeah, imposter syndrome is the worst. And it's just frustrating when you're feeling that way. Oh, I also put a poll in the chat section. I want to ask if anyone here has been through a department merge before. Ooh, going through it now has a couple. All right, mostly no. Oh, this is so fun. You can see it in real time. So anyway, as people trickle in, I'm going to grab a drink of water. So as I talk about this, I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty. I'm not going to air anyone's laundry because we all come from different departments and different cultures, and you can't really, that stuff's out of our control. We don't want to, let's focus on the things that we can control, right? So the process started in mid-2019, where it was really being considered. Our previous chancellor, full-time chancellor, retired in May of 2019. And then we had an interim chancellor that served until March 1st, 2020. Our new chancellor that we have now was hired in November of 2019. So anyway, the interim chancellor is the one that finalized all of this. And so you can kind of see a timeline on the slide just about how my old grand boss, my boss's boss, he and then my current grand boss, the CMO, the chief marketing officer, they wanted the other department to merge with their unit, right? That seems like it'd be a pretty natural thing to want to happen, but that's not what happened for both. Obviously, neither of them could be directors of, co-directors. That would be too much money. And really, the interim chancellor said the reason for this was to save money, and it was for budget reasons. So after it got finalized in early 2020, that was pretty exciting. Like, we knew it was going to happen in the later months of 2019. Like, we knew that it was probably going to happen, but there was a lot of drama and a lot of politics in there, and I wasn't necessarily involved in a lot of it personally, but social media was a huge part of the conversation for years, and then it ended up finally happening before this new chancellor came on. So starting February 1st of last year, 2020, the chief marketing officer became the new director of marketing communications, aka Marcom. a way cooler, shorter way to say what we do. Usually our department names are so long. And anyway, so my previous supervisor and I moved to the new team. And now I had a new supervisor and new teammates. So my sub-team in Marcom is called the Digital and Research Team, aka the DIRT team. And most everyone else on my team does like our email marketing and the comm flow in Pardot in Salesforce, if that sounds familiar to anyone, and digital ads, Google, anything on the web, and all social ads. So that's a team of 3 other people, and then plus a student worker that helps with social ads. And then I have a student worker that I brought with to the team as well. This was the best, you guys. We have been waiting for so long to join Marcom. I mean, I had been waiting. This was such a long time coming. I was being cross-trained in social ads and in the Agile framework. I don't know if any of you guys do Agile, leave that in the chat. If whether or not it's like you do it officially, or if you have a Scrum Master or not, or if you use Kanban, similar. Let me know. I'm a certified Scrum Master, if that means anything to anyone. But I finally got to go to the Marcom meetings, which are always so fun. They're always like laughing and having fun. I've been waiting so long for this. And 2020 was looking like it was going to have so much potential. But yeah, that's not what happened, right? That's not what happened. You all know what came next. We all got sent home. I wasn't settled into the new team yet. We were supposed to move into a new building and get a new office in May. And this threw a lot of wrenches into my excitement of the reality of finally getting to join Marcom. And anyway, I ended up just being in crisis mode for 5 months, and I'm sure many of you were too, probably for longer. And I had a lot of things that I wanted to do last year. I had SMART goals, and I never had those before. I had people that were keeping me accountable to my projects and my goals for myself as a professional, but also for my position on the team. And one of those SMART goals was to create a sustainable Twitter strategy. I'm gonna check the chat really quick, see what people are saying. Oh, awesome. Yeah, thanks, Cousin Drew, for sharing that. Agile is the best. So in this context, a sustainable, oops, just adjusting. In this context, sustainable means if I were to ever leave my position, would this strategy be able to help the person properly and fully take over the Instagram account? They would be left with a foundation of what this account is and what it means, who it's for, what kind of content we post. Would it be a good standard for other people to follow? What's funny is that like I said earlier, I chose Twitter specifically because it's the hardest for me to personally wrap my head around as a social team of 1 and a student worker who helps me a lot with Twitter content. There's just so many potential uses for it, and it's like the audiences on it have changed and over time. And anyway, so I started with Twitter. And this SMART goal ended up sending me on a journey to create a platform strategy template, which is the bulk of what I'm going to go over today, versus explaining how I filled it out. But I will share, if anyone emails me, my email will be at the end. I'm willing to email my filled out Twitter strategy template with you, if that's something that you're interested in, if you need some inspiration. So, I'm also going to talk a little bit about leading into the Twitter strategy. First, I'm going to talk about the other merge. And the other merge is the consolidation of 2 Twitter accounts. And I'm going to give another poll. And I'm asking, has anyone consolidated an account before? I meant multiple accounts to create 1 account. This is what we did with our news Twitter and our main Twitter account. When I joined, when I joined the university communications team, there was 2, and it made, like, on the surface, it did make sense to have, like, we have a lot of news stories. Let's have a news Twitter account. And that's all that they posted there. However, the news that was being posted to the news articles were meant for reporters and news outlets in the region to find our stories. I'll give you just a hint that was not effective for us. But I want to say the way that news articles, before I joined the team, they were posted to this account using an RSS feed. So whenever an article was published on our school website, like the first however many, like 80 characters were published as a tweet, no image, and then it was ... and then the link to the article. And you might be feeling this way, and I understand, because this is how I felt. I closed it down so fast when I started working here. I knew immediately that this was not effective. They were getting maybe 1 or 2 likes a week, maybe. Like, I mean, I know it's not all about likes. I mean, honestly, there was literally no engagement. Very, very, very few views, even with like 2,000 plus followers. Yeah, so just imagine your tweets looking that way, and you might feel this way. So this is how I felt. Also, in all 3 years that I was in communications, nobody messaged me or the account about a story that we tweeted. And unfortunately, I only have metrics from the 2018 and 2019 year for the news account. But I can tell you with confidence that it probably wasn't much different leading up to the deletion. But the decision was pretty simple because we had very consistent low net followers and engagement on the account. It wasn't working for our audience, and it was pretty obvious. So I have some numbers. Of course, I think a lot of us know that it is important to keep metrics, and we're probably all doing that in some form. Even if it's really simple, that's a really good start. But for the news Twitter, I don't have very many from that, from after after December 2019. So either way, I will say that if you're looking at this right now, you can see that it's pretty low. Even when we were writing the tweets, they were well written. I mean, they were well written, and we still were not getting good engagement, and we weren't getting good followers compared to our main Twitter account, which was, twice as many followers and engagement each month. UW Stout isn't known for its research. It's not a big school. And the first thing most people think of when they hear University of Wisconsin is the Badgers or UW-Madison. Or like people will refer to UW-Madison just as University of Wisconsin, which I don't think is technically wrong, but it makes us other universities feel, inferior a little bit. I didn't know this for a long time, but this will blow your mind. So I eventually found out that all of the local news outlets and papers, reporters were sent our news articles as releases to them directly, like to their emails. And releases were even sent to like outlets in the Twin Cities, in Minneapolis and St. Paul. And I thought, isn't this the reason that the news Twitter even exists? I couldn't get over that. So at this point, you might be thinking, why did she not just consolidate them? It would have been such a logical strategic move, because that content can totally live on our main Twitter. But I was kind of nervous. Like I said, I had pretty bad imposter syndrome. I wasn't quite sure what to expect. Honestly, looking back, they probably would have let me do it. It's like, as long as I just kept tweeting out the news articles, but I don't know. I just didn't. And I don't have a good reason. However, I have kind of a good reason. And the bottom line is that I kept it because of this guy. So the guy in the buffalo plaid shirt's name is Cam. and he was one of my first 3 social media student specialists. He worked for me from January 2018 until May 2019, and he was my first ever news tweet writer. He was in the major I graduated from, and I knew that he was a very captivating writer, very clever. He was a satire writer for our student newspaper, Stoutonia, and he had the skills needed to write these tweets, and I felt confident in that. And so I used this Twitter account to train my students that were interested in social media about what it was like to create and write and have content edited for social media. I wanted them to know what that looked like, and it definitely benefited him. I don't regret it, even though I meant putting off a strategic move for 2 years, or 3 years essentially, but it paid off in a different way because Cam was hired at Mind Sailing. This picture is from their Instagram, a marketing agency in the Twin Cities, and he was hired as a social media specialist 3 months after he graduated, and he was actually just recently promoted to a senior social marketing specialist, and he works on client-facing communications, page management for clients, content creation, scheduling, and analytics reporting. He also works to develop and consult on strategy for improving metrics across all the platforms for his clients. And if any of you kind of understand what it's like to have student workers, they become like your children. And I am so proud of him, and I don't regret it because of him and because of my other students that benefited and learned a lot from writing those tweets. Also, I should say that my concentration was in applied journalism, and so is his, and so is all of my other social media students that work for me. So it did help them in the long run. It gave them real world experience, like we like to say. And so I wish that my reason for keeping it for so long was more black and white, but it's just not. And sometimes that's okay. And I'm not saying sorry for it. Also, he is in the chat. Yeah, definitely pump him up. I know that he feels imposter syndrome too, in his job, because I don't know what it is about us younger, I don't know, millennial, but I don't know what it is with us, but we feel like we just can't trust ourselves. So anyway, yeah, he is in here. So thank you so much for joining, Cam. All right, so let's move on. So after stewing on it for a while, and also managing a global pandemic, my supervisor, Sam, and I went to our boss, Amy, last June to ask if she was okay with us merging the accounts for the reasons that I gave earlier. And if any of you guys are looking to merge, and let me quick look at the chat again, or look at that poll. So it looks like 6 are considering, and 5 people have already done it. So for those 6 that are considering, maybe these reasons will help you. And I would definitely love to talk with anyone about these afterwards. So anyway, they're pretty self-explanatory, but followers were going to our main Twitter account, especially students and new students. And I could tell this just, like Gen Zers that are on Twitter, they'll always put like their high school, and on Instagram, they'll always put like their high school graduating date. I feel like not many people did that when I was in high school. That was also in 2012. So Instagram started a year before that, so it's not like we had that. Anyway, that's how I would be able to tell. The engagements were few, while the main account was bursting with engagements and followers comparatively. My ability to juggle 2 accounts was dwindling. All of this content would fit just fine into one account. I was also spreading myself too thin. And I know that a lot of people in our higher ed community are probably also spreading themselves too thin, and it's definitely come to light more recently in this past year, especially during the pandemic and afterwards, reflecting on it, that we are like addicted to spreading ourselves too thin, and it's just not healthy for us. And it's like we want to do a really good job. I know that people in our industry really, really love to go above and beyond, but guys, we really need to take a nap or go for a walk or do not put do not disturb on our phones or something. We all need to figure out some way to do that for ourselves. And so this was just another thing that was spreading myself too thin, and it would definitely help me. I mean, it was less metrics I had to record, less, just less. I just wanted less. But anyway, I see you guys, and if any of you can relate to that, share things that you guys do to help prevent spreading yourself too thin in the chat so that we can all kind of help each other in that way. Also, we are one department now. A lot of schools, I mean, I've met a lot of people that have Marcom-like departments where comms and marketing are together, but they might have different names. But I know a lot of schools also are different, and they're maybe a bit more siloed, or they're just different, plain different. Since news is now a part of marketing, and I am the social media person in marketing, we can make it, we can just have one Twitter now. We don't need to have a news one, because there's no marketing and there's no Twitter, or sorry, there's no marketing, there's no just plain marketing and no just communications department. We can be one now. So it was finally time to merge. From all the pain came triumph, just like for Gina. I had some graphics made to schedule throughout the month on that other account, so people would know to go follow our own account. And so I was just checking the chat. I don't know, okay, side tangent. Like if you guys have Teams or Zoom, it's like the chat is like just as distracting as, like going on your phone, because then I miss everything in the presentation. Anyway, we ended up getting 23 new followers on the main account compared to the 7 that we got in June last year. However, I'm not super surprised because we saw a huge, not super huge, but we saw a decline in followers month to month. And also just in everything because of last year. Like there were some spikes, obviously, in like March and stuff. But anyway, that's not surprising normally because in summer we have pretty low engagement. I don't know the exact number that we got from the news account, but I do want to say anecdotally that most of the people that would follow us on the main Twitter account also followed us at the same time on our news account. And I would just see that because I would go on both and be like, oh, this person followed you. I'd switch over to the other one. Oh, the same person followed you on this one too. People had plenty of opportunities to find the news account from our main Twitter. We retweeted them all the time. It was in our bio, but it still had like 3,000 less followers than our main account. So obviously people just wanted the main account. So I do want to mention too that there wasn't a lot of drama around merging the accounts, which I'm thankful for because now we were on one team. It was a little bit, we had full, complete ownership over it. But I'm really thankful for that. But also I would be willing to talk with anyone going through that, like, talk through that drama that might be happening or, what things you can say or do to help you get through it unscathed. I know that it can be intimidating to talk to stakeholders or, even if you don't have a great relationship with your superiors in your department, I know that can be scary. So I am here for you in that way. Here we go. So it all leads to this, right? The strategy. This is probably why you guys are here. This is the fun stuff, I think. Everyone, I hope you guys are drinking water. Just saying, it's good for you. And that's one way we can support ourselves is to stay hydrated. Anyway, okay, so the strategy framework that I read and learned about and I'm using is the GSOT framework to develop a strategy for our university. And I'm sure that this can be used in so many different other ways. But I learned this from the Campus Sonar Fundamentals of Social Media Strategy, a guide for college campuses. It's a PDF book. It's written by, like I said, Campus Sonar, Liz Gross, and has some other editors like John Steven Stansel and Aaron Spinka, who are excellent, wonderful, very helpful awesome higher ed social people, professionals, not just people, they're professionals. And I'm quick gonna just share the link to the book. I didn't have this one preloaded, but I will share it. There you go. If you want to develop a strategy for your university, overarching, or for your platforms, you need to read this book. If your administration or like your superiors in your department don't understand anything that you're saying, you should read this book, and then they should read this book, and then you guys have a meeting about it. It's a great resource, and you don't even need to read the whole thing to get stuff out of it. I'm not even personally done reading it yet, but it is excellent. So thank you so much to the Campus Sonar team. If anyone in the chat has worked with them or is from it. All right, Mark, got another good review. So yeah, take our words for it. All right, so I want to create a good vibe in the studio today by making sure that everyone knows it's okay to start where you are right now. It may feel like the bottom, but honestly, I don't care. Everyone had to start at the bottom at some point, and it's totally okay. We're here for you. The HSM community has been there for me when I needed them, and I'm so thankful for everybody. As I've been a one-person team and now a smaller team, it's invaluable. So anyway, just start where you are. It's the only way, and you'll get to where you need to go as long as you just start now. So, all right, here we go. GSOT. And at the end, we'll have a little bit of time for questions or discussion or anything about this as well. So make sure to keep those in your pocket. So first, we're going to talk about goals. Goals are what you want to achieve. That seems straightforward, right? But these can be broad or specific. Generally, I see them as being more overarching, already existent goals for your university. So this means that you can't just do this on your own. You have to talk to people. You have to talk to your administration. I don't talk to the people that know and develop the goals for your university, whether that might be in student life, affairs, or dining, or anywhere. I mean, it really depends on the structure of your university. One example, one of the goals that I have for our Twitter is to increase trust with audience. This does not just apply to our social media channels, especially Twitter. This is the spirit across the whole university. Our student life and services, which is like student affairs, the counseling center, our advisement center, and especially with new leadership, our administration. Next is strategies. Strategy is kind of a harder one for me to wrap my head around, but hopefully what I've written down makes sense. It's explaining your method or approach to achieving your goals. I found it's a bit more theoretical in language. However, it does imply some sort of action. It doesn't necessarily describe the nitty-gritty of how you manage the account, but it can describe tools or processes that you'll use to achieve your goals. One example that I have for our Twitter account as a strategy is a calendar tool. So a yearly calendar tool. So this is a screenshot. Sorry if some of that is small on there for you, but this is a screenshot from a Smartsheet board. I don't know if anyone in here uses Smartsheet or Trello or some similar project management tool like that. This actually started from an Excel file where I just had a bunch of rows and columns with basically the same information that are on these what we call tickets or cards. But essentially each list is a month, and within that month are cards or tickets that are categorized by color depending on the category of the topic or or the content. So like that first one, we have Move-In Day, that's an event. The one below that is a reminder. Two below that is a resource. The one below that is educational. So I'm also able to label them with where I think potentially content based off of that topic could go, like what platform it could go on. So this is something I use, my student included, we use pretty heavily throughout the year for all of our channels, not just Twitter. But this is part of the strategy to use this to help us curate and keep track of content that happens every year. And the end goal is for, over the course of years of using this and adding to it, there will be just like an endless supply of really high level ideas that we can change the approach to creating content for each year. And oh, it's a little blurry. I'm sorry about that. Wonder if I can make it bigger. I don't know if that helped at all, but I can here, I'll send it in the chat really quick because I do want you guys to be able to kind of see what I'm talking about here. So there we go. I think it's uploading. So anyway, it can start as an Excel file or move into this, but this is one strategy, part of the strategy for our Twitters to use this to help curate and create content. So next we have objectives. So, 1 second. There we go. Okay, so we have objectives, and this is explaining how you will measure your success in meeting your goals. This could be identifying key performance indicators or enrollment numbers or whatever it may be for you to say our content, our strategy is working. Some examples from mine are positive conversations about UW Stout through social listening, engagements with our content, responses or retweets with comments to our content, increased involvement on campus. And you have to kind of look for those answers and those metrics in different places. That might be the case for some of the things for some of the goals that you might, want to achieve. So I might add that these will change and I will add to them or take away from them, every so often, because our Twitter is going to change. It's going to be used differently. It's going to be interacted with differently. We always need to be asking ourselves, do I need to rethink the content or frequency of posting or something else? It's okay for these to flux over time because our audiences change. The way that people use platforms change. I think of Snapchat. For us, that's a great example because the way that Snapchat has changed since I was a senior in high school in 2012, the way that Snapchat's changed since then is crazy. It used to be I used to follow brands on there all the time, and now it's just completely different. It's just kind of copying all different other, it's like every platform is copying other platforms, and it's infuriating. Everyone, I bet everyone in this room just loves fleets, right? So anyway, the objective can change over time, and that's okay. So next is tactics, and I am coming up on the end pretty soon. So if you have questions, you can start leaving them in the chat. So lastly, tactics are the day-to-day tasks and actions that you take to give life to your strategy and to your platform. This is how you will achieve your goals practically. Like I said, I didn't come up with this. You can get more in-depth definitions of all of these and how they look played out, and real expert explanations from the professionals at Campus Sonar in that book. But I knew that I wanted to add some things to my strategy template that I'll show you in the next slide, and that I'll give as a handout at the end. I knew I wanted to add some things. So some of those things were content topics, best practices, frequency, things like that. But I also want to say that this template will work very well for vetting platforms as well. You can use it for that too. Like if you're thinking about getting a TikTok, you could try filling it out beforehand. And if you're stretching yourself too thin, you'll know by filling this out. It'll help expose a bit if you don't have the resources or time or whatever it may be. And it'll save you from starting something that you can't maintain. All right, so here it is. It's pretty simple. Like I said, I mean, you guys, this is what I made. It's pretty simple, but it's something that works for us really well. So the things that I've added to it, audiences. Of course, it's so important to be reminded of who you're talking to, of who you are serving in your job. Christina Halverson out of Minneapolis, she said that basic content strategy is creating the right content, giving the right content to the right people at the right time. And if any of you know who Christina Halverson is, she's excellent. You should follow her on Twitter. I also added content topics. They are general or specific topics that you know perform well on the particular platform. The list can change and be added to. On mine, I have things like memes. Memes do pretty well on Twitter. One that I did recently, I should have put it in here, was the Jane Lynch meme from Glee, where, and it was referring to the joke I made earlier about, or not joke, it was a fun fact, but about Stout being named after the person that founded the university and not the town. That confuses a lot of people. So that got more engagement than, like, on average, all of our tweets in 2020. So anyway, memes, campus beauty. We love campus beauty pictures. I feel you. I hear you. Big event coverage, involvement topics, and things like that. This will give you, and people that might take over for you later or are filling in for you while you're on vacation or something and they need to create content or post stuff, this will give them a good standard and a foundation to start with. Best practices are just like reminders for people, really, just like, these are not super in-depth. I think that best practices should go on like perhaps a separate document. However, this is your own document. For us, I don't want to put all our best practices on here, but if you want to, go right ahead. Frequency and when to post will really vary based on your audience's activity times. I have Sprout Social, so they have a technology that determines when people are most active on your account, active on the channels every day at what time. So that's how I determine it. But the frequency essentially is decided by you, the social media manager. What are you or your team able to accomplish? It'll probably flux throughout time, but for right now, I landed on 15 to 20 tweets per week. I don't know if that is a lot or a little to you guys, but for what I'm able to do with my student also, that's what we're able to do. And that's just counting original tweets, not retweets and replies. Those are extra. Measurement is the hardest thing for me personally to deliver on. I don't know if others feel this way, but it's always the last thing that, it's always the last thing that you do. At the end of the month or the end of the year, you record metrics, you look at your objectives, are you meeting them, etc. But it's also the beginning of new things too, right? Your metrics are meant to inform future decisions and new strategy. I forget that, and I'm just kind of coming to that realization. I'm creating right now, working on creating a pretty cool, fun, interactive 2020 social media metrics presentation in Power BI. And if you guys have Microsoft, products like SharePoint and that whole package, you might have Power BI. If you have not been utilizing that for social metrics, you should definitely check it out. And I can talk to you more about that if you'd like. But there are these really cool interactive graphs, whether it's pie charts or line charts, anything. Anyway, it's just teaching me so much about how important metrics are and measurement. So this could be link clicks, yearly and monthly engagement rate, event attendance numbers, follower increase, mentions from social listening, things like that. I do want to say that now that we've gone over this, I do want to, this is kind of where it's ending, because, you all are going to have to find how this fits for you and how you'll move forward from here. So now that we're here, if you're still feeling like this, I need someone to talk to, I am here to help as much as I can and to be a positive point in your journey of learning strategy for your university, I'm learning too, and I'm doing it too. And I think anyone who knows me or who has met me at a conference or something or follows me on Twitter, they know that I love asking questions. They know that I love creating community in some way. So if now we can, like talk about questions, anything like that. And then I'll leave this next slide up if you guys want to contact me. But I'll go back on camera now that it won't distract. Anyway, yeah, I want to thank you guys so much for checking out this presentation. I hope that you guys aren't too brain tired right now. But I don't know how long we have. I know that took up 55 minutes, but
we've got a few minutes here. Did you have a handout for them?
Yep, I can share those.
And on that,
yep.
And then we'll make sure, if you guys need the presentation, we'll make sure to get that to you guys. And definitely Google stalk Rachel on Twitter. She's really active on there, and so that's a great way to follow her and kind of get her assistance. We might have to have you on for a session about Power BI, because that is something I have not played with.
Okay.
Myself. And so
I'll definitely have to loop in my boss on that one. She's actually I call her the Excel queen, the formula queen. I don't know if you guys know people that are just obsessed with Excel. Oh, wow.
Those people.
Thanks, Nick. That makes me blush. I around in the UW system, I don't know many of the other managers of this. I mean, I've seen them. They have a Facebook group, but it's super inactive, and I've tried to revive it. No one says anything. So I'm glad I have so many. Yeah, and I made Cam a huge data nerd, which I never thought I would make anyone a data nerd, because I'm terrible with data in the first place.
But that's it, right? That's what's going to set you apart in the job market, is being able to bring this sort of thing to people and be able to say more than just, we're not getting clicks on our Twitter, we need to kill it. Here's a way that I can show you. Let's try to do this. Here's some really cool metrics that we need to know. Let's try it and move it forward. And it seems like you were saying, a lot of schools are really stuck in this is the way we've always done it. And, an opportunity to shake things up if you're going through a merger, or you're consolidating, or you've got staff or something like that, that are leaving. And so, really take that time to jump in. And like you said, you guys are the experts. So, really getting your senior level management to buy into the fact that they hired you to do this. And best practices might be sticky, and it might be hard, and there might be some politics, but jump in on it, and advocate for what it is that you need. When you were talking about spreading yourself too thin, I was like, oh, that's totally me. I do that all the time. I can't say no to a project at all in any little way. So this has been fantastic. If there aren't any questions, drop them into the chat. You can also follow up with Rachel here on Twitter. She's got her link. It'll link you out to that. So feel free to go follow her on Twitter if you have any follow-up questions. And thank you so much for joining us today for this most recent episode of the Higher Ed Social webinar series. We've got a couple more coming up. Check us out in the Facebook group in the events section. We've got one coming up next week. We've got one on putting on online graduations that's getting ready to get posted. So definitely come and check them out. We love to put these out there, and they're on topics that you guys have asked for. So if there's something specific you're struggling with, or you want to hear feedback on, or want a roundtable, we'll make it happen. Just let us know. Post up in the group. Feel free to tag me. Feel free to tag, the Higher Ed Social page, and we'll find a way to get it started and get the trainings that you guys are asking for, because it takes a village to do this work, for sure. So thank you so much, guys. And if you have any questions, feel free to message us in the group. Otherwise, we'll let you go. Have a great rest of your Friday. Have a wonderful 3-day weekend for anybody who's getting a 3-day. And we'll see you on the other side. Have a good one, guys. Bye.
Thank you all.